Hi, this is Leonard from Cosmic Sound, and thanks for joining us again for another video from our high-tech department. Today we're going to be back talking about field recorders. You may remember we did a field recorder comparison a couple of years ago. Well, we've got a new model to add to that list now, and that is the Zoom H6. So let's get straight into it. We're going to talk first of all about some of the new features on it, and then we're going to talk about how it can be useful for you. So before we start talking about the H6, I just want to remind you about its predecessor model, the H4n. So just to look at the basic features of it, we had stereo mics on the top in XY position, which could be angled in two different ways. On the bottom here, we had ports which could either be used as jacks, which we could run in either mono or stereo signals. We could also connect guitars to this. We could also connect microphones to this. It had built-in phantom power as well, which is fantastic. On the side here we had an SD card slot, so we could record straight to SD card, and of course there was USB on it as well, which meant you could use it as an audio interface as well as to transfer your data from the H4 into your computer. So that's just run through a little bit about what this can do, so let's get straight into talking about what the H6 can do. So to the new H6, and this is the model here, looks absolutely fantastic. It's built like a tank. Again, we've got the rubberized grip on it, so it's for one, comfortable to hold, and also reduces the amount of noise that gets sent through the unit when hand holding. Before we get into talking specifically about what's going on with each part, I'll just give you a basic run through. On the top here we've got the stereo XY mics, very similar to the H4n. They can be adjusted in two different positions. Probably the most different thing on this is that we have a gain control right on the module itself, rather than having to control it from buttons on the side as we did with the H4n. There's a lot of other things going on here, but I'll just keep running through the basic features and we'll talk about that in a minute. So other things you'll notice, instead of having the two combo ports on here that we had before, which can take jacks or XLR, we now have two on each side. So we've got a total of 4 on this unit. And of course, similar to what I mentioned about the module on the top, we have a gain control here for each one of those ports. Other things that are a little bit different, we've now got a full color screen, so if I just turn this on quickly, you'll see we've got the full color screen there. Probably another thing to note as well is that it's much quicker to turn on. One thing with the H4n is if you wanted to very quickly turn it on and grab a recording of something that was happening right now, it was actually a little bit difficult to do because it took a few moments just to get that to get warmed up and ready to record. So we've got a nice full color screen here. We can actually see each of the 4 channels independently on there. Again, there's a lot of other things going on here that I'll talk about in a minute as well. So controls on here. So similar to the H4n, what we had on here was we had one button here for mics, which referred to these two, and then we could set this to 1 or 2, or a combination of 1 and 2 for recording from the ports on the bottom. It's a little bit better on this one. What we've got here is we've got the LR, which of course relates to the left and right mics on the top. We've also got these 4 buttons here for the inputs, and they're really good in the way that you can just click them to add them or click them again to remove them. Makes it really, really easy to use. Other than that, very simple. We've got the record and all the functions that you'd normally use to get a recording happening or to play the recording back. If we take a couple of looks, some other things on here as well. Here's the SD card slot. So similar to the H4n, the big difference on this one is you can put many more different types of memory cards in it. Of course, all SD type, but you can use, for example, the SD-XC and the SD-HC cards. We can run right up to 128 gigabytes memory card in this unit now, which is absolutely amazing. On the side here, we've got volume controls for playback. We've got the switch here, as we did on the other one. We've also got on the other side here a USB port for connecting to your computer for either use for transferring files or to use it as an audio interface, as you could with the H4n. And then these are of course the menu buttons here. So we've got a button to move into the menu, and then we've got this device here which you can use to switch up and down, and also clicks in as well to select any items on the menu. So now we've discussed the general features, we're going to get into a little bit more detail now, and I'm going to take you through some of the features of these independent parts. So probably the first thing that we can talk about with this, and it's probably the most striking thing about this unit, is that this device on the top is totally replaceable. So at the moment we have got the XY mics attached to it, but we can also add different capsules to the unit. So it basically opens it up for a whole different host of applications that maybe it couldn't do before without adding extra hardware to it. So let's show you how this works. Basically, you've just got these two buttons on the side, and then we just pull and that comes off, and there's the field recorder as it is without anything attached to it. We just got a really simple port on the top of it here with some connections. Here's another one. So this is also comes directly with the unit, and this is a mid-side capsule. So we can clip that on like that. Same thing as before. We've got control here for the gain, but gives us a totally different way of recording our sound. So for those that don't know, basically what mid-side is, it's actually a combination of two different microphones in here. We've got one that points forward and records the image coming from the front, and then we've got a microphone here that's bidirectional that records information from the sides. And essentially what it means you can do is actually work with or manipulate the width of the signal. So we're just going to do a bit of a demo here. We're going to give you guys the audio from this so you can hear what's happening. One thing you should note, it's going to be much better if you chuck some headphones on, especially if you're listening through laptop speakers in your computer. So let's show you how this works. So you'll notice if I talk into the front of it, my voice will predominantly be coming from the middle. It will almost sound mono, so you're going to be getting it in both channels. As I move the microphone around, you'll start to notice that my voice is now totally out in the sides, which is a result of using this bidirectional mic, which is recording either side here. So that just gives you an idea how this can be used for different purposes. It's especially really handy if you're recording a mono instrument that you want to have a wider sound on. So rather than just recording with a single mic, this is a really great technique to get yourself some width to your sound. So now I'd just like to backtrack a little bit and show you how the XY mics sound. So as I mentioned before, there are two different angles that you can use with these. So we've got 90 degrees and 120. Going to the 120 will just give you a slightly wider angle. And of course, I should probably mention the benefit of having XY mics on these as opposed to other stereo patterns such as AB. The major advantage is that it'll basically avoid any phase problems that you might have because sound will be reaching the microphones roughly at the same time. So XY is definitely a very useful pattern to use if you don't want to be having to try and fix it later. So I'm just going to show you how this sounds now. Different to the mid-side mic where we would have approached from the front, the XY mics we need to approach from the top. So if I just point those at myself, you'll hear how that sounds now, and of course if I move this around, you'll hear how my voice is moving from side to side as well. So before we move on to some of the other features of the H6, I'd just like to take you through some of the attachments that you can get, the extra capsules that you can fit on the top of the unit. First of all, we've got a shotgun mic here. This is pretty commonly used in film, or it can also be very useful for recording interviews. Basically what it is an extremely directional mic that you point right at something and it avoids really other sound that's going on around. It also kind of needs to be relatively close to the object, so as I said, it's perfect for recording for interviews, or if you have a boom, for example, you could attach the H6 to that as well. In terms of features, very similar to the other ones we've discussed here. We've just got a gain control on the front. Other things to note, it actually comes with a windscreen as well, which is absolutely perfect, especially because most of the uses for this device will actually be outdoors. So it's actually a pretty essential thing that you'd need to have with this. So the final one we're going to talk about here, this is the last capsule attachment you can get for the H6. It's called the XLR TRS Combo Capsule. It's actually a pretty simple concept, but extremely useful. All it's going to do is add an extra 2 combo ports to the unit. So if you look at the side here, basically what we've got here is another jack or XLR connection. Basically means if you've got lots of things you want to record that are all coming from maybe different audio sources, it may be coming from other microphones, mixers, line level signals, keyboards, guitars, whatever, you can plug them in. So you can actually connect now 6 different devices to your H6. Very simple. Other things on there, we've got a pad switch so we can drop some decibels out of there if you're recording something extremely loud. And that's pretty much it. So just to go into a little bit more detail about some of the things on the front here, probably the biggest thing to mention are these 4 controls here, your gain controls. Positives and negatives about these, well, positives are it's really easy to adjust. It's right there. You don't have to be going through menus or pressing buttons or anything on the side. You've got a really simple rotary control right here that you can dial in exactly the amount of gain that you need. Pad switches as well are basically available straight away. You don't need to be searching for those as well. You can drop 20 decibels out of any of these inputs on here. Basically, the advantage of this is if a signal's coming in too hot, it's really easy to adjust down. If you're not getting enough gain, it's really easy to adjust up without having to press lots of buttons. Probably the only negative about this, it's pretty easy to knock these things. So what you want to do is basically keep your hands well out of the way of those. If you're putting it in a bag or moving it for later, you need to make sure when you pull it out that you reset and check these gains before you actually start recording. So next up, I want to show you this new color screen that we've got down the bottom here. So basically you can see it's full color. We've got all the channels displayed on there which relate to all the different inputs that we've got on there. It's got really great level representations here, so you can see exactly how much signal's coming in. But of course the really interesting part about this is the new menu system, and that's how we can actually change all or adjust all the features of the unit as we need to. So we've got a button on the side here for menu, so I'll click that now. And then here we are, these are all the different menu features. The top one here, we've got folders, so you can basically set it up so your recordings are organized in folders straight away without having to send them anywhere. The next one down here, we've got some basic features for inputs and outputs. So this is where you can use some of the effects that are built in. So we've got a low cut on there if you want to cut out all the low end of what you're recording if you're not going to use it. Probably pretty important as well, we've also got compressor and limiting on there as well. So if you're going to be recording something that may be erratic in level and you're worried about it clipping, then you may be able to chuck the limiter on there to make sure that doesn't happen. Other things we've got in there, phantom power is probably another important one as well. Which we can adjust between 12, 24 and 48 volts for whatever we might need. And of course we can use that to power condenser mics is probably the important thing to mention there. Next one down, we've got some record settings. I won't go through all of these things, there's just too many in there to mention. We've got playback settings as well. We've got things we can adjust for the particular project that we're recording. A couple of tools which are worth mentioning as well. We've got the tuner in here, so if you're using it with guitars or other instruments, you can use this to tune your instrument. You've also got metronome in here as well. And it's probably a good time to mention as well some other features for people that might be using this for recording their band or for practicing their parts. Once you've got a recording in here as well, you also have variable pitch, so you can actually drop the speed of the recording if you need to play along with it slower to get used to it. A couple of other things in here, we've just got the system menu here, so we can use that to actually check things like battery or change things like the date and the time. Language, of course. Final thing we've got there is the SD card. So basically when you put a card in here, you can format it, you can check if the card's working all right, and you can see how much time is remaining on the card. Probably another thing I should quickly mention you can adjust from the menu here is quality. So this is a pretty important part here as well. You've got a few options on this. You can record either an MP3 or WAV quality or format, and you've got different quality settings within that. So you can record anywhere up to 96 kilohertz 24-bit files with this recorder. So before we finish, I just want to take you through a couple of really awesome features that this has got. There are 3 of them, and they basically relate to different manners in which you can get your recording to happen. So the first one is called pre-record, and what that means is the recorder is essentially always recording. So for example, if something starts and you've missed it by a couple of seconds, as soon as you hit record, it'll actually add the previous 2 seconds to your recording, so you never miss the beginning of anything. So the next one, and probably the most impressive of the lot, is a thing called backup record. So let's just create a scenario where this might be useful. Let's say you're recording something, there are heaps of dynamics going on in it, a lot of really erratic levels and spikes coming in. And let's say you've got your recording going and it's been fantastic, and then something comes out really loud and you're recording clips. Basically, you've ruined your entire recording. Well, with backup record, that won't happen, because what it actually does is simultaneously as you're recording what you want to record, it's also recording an exact duplicate of that at -12. So basically it means you've got a lower level recording that you can then use for in any way you want to do it. You might want to cut it in and amplify it or whatever you want to do. Basically you've got a backup recording that isn't ruined essentially. So the third one to mention here is another feature, and it's called auto record. Essentially it's a threshold based recording system, so once the signal exceeds a certain level it will automatically start recording, and you can even set it as well so once the signal decreases below a threshold it'll stop recording. So very quickly before we finish, I'd just like to talk about a couple of other things that we've got on the unit. First of all, outputs. So we've got a couple on here. We've got a headphone output here, which is very useful if you're using this device in the field and you just want to be monitoring what's happening as you're recording. We've also got a line output here, which can be used for the same thing, of course, or if you're going to pipe the sound out later for other purposes. Probably another really exciting feature on the back here, we've got a speaker built into it. So really great, if you don't have headphones, you can just check to see what's happened with your recordings. Final thing, USB port on the side, as I mentioned earlier, which has the dual use of either being used for an audio interface or for transferring information on and off the unit. So to finish, I'm just going to show you through a couple of accessories, some things that come with it and some that don't. First of all, you get this really pretty awesome case that comes with it, really great if you're going to be carrying it around and using it in the field. The H4 came in a case, but it was actually quite a small sort of self-contained case and wasn't particularly great for carrying around. This one, of course, has a handle on it. It's built pretty well. This case will actually hold both of the capsules that come with it. You also get a USB cable with it. So another thing which unfortunately I don't have to show you, but I'll just tell you about, is the optional accessory kit. Comes with 3 different things. First of all, you get a windscreen. Of course, field recorders are very commonly used outdoors, and without it, all you're going to get is noise and digital clipping from wind blowing through your microphone. Not really good for anybody. The second thing is a remote controller. If you want to set it up on a stand or something, or use it from a distance, you can actually get a remote control for it. The third thing is something which is a bit strange, it doesn't actually come with, and that's a power adapter. So where the H4n had a dedicated power port, what we have now is just the USB port and the unit's powered through that. But to get the power adapter, you actually have to buy the optional accessory kit. It does not come with the unit as standard. The final thing to mention here, this is the optional hot shoe mount. If you want to mount your field recorder onto a camera, this is pretty essential for that. Main advantages of this, you don't have to hand hold it. When you hand hold the device, it's pretty easy to transfer noise through the unit. So this actually enables you not to have to hand hold it. And of course, if you're the only person working, you don't want to be carrying your camera and your field recorder as well, so it gets out of your hands. So an absolute final thing to mention, obviously, as I just said, it doesn't come with the power adapter, but what you can power it with, 4 AA batteries like so, and this will give the unit apparently approximately 20 hours of recording without needing to change these batteries. So just to wrap everything up, we've been taking you through the new Zoom H6 today. Absolutely fantastic unit. We're going to go just briefly gloss over the advantages of this unit for anybody and why it's better than the predecessor H4n. Okay, so most obviously we've got the ability to use 6 different things where the H4n was only 2. That's probably the most important thing to note with this. And of course, the easy access to controls, the faster menu system, it's just generally a lot easier to use. So who would want a field recorder like this? Well, the obvious thing to say is people out working in the field. That could be interviewers, it could be filmmakers, it could be musicians that use field recordings in their works. It's basically usable for a whole number of different people. Also for bands, if you wanted to do recording your rehearsals, for example, you've got double advantages with this. You can record with microphones which are attached to the unit, but you can also take a recording or maybe out of your mixer if you're mixing your band. You can get basically a double up recording. So another really awesome use for this as well is for DJs. So a really common thing that we get asked a lot by DJs is how they can record their sets, either to put up on SoundCloud or Mixcloud or send in for demos or whatever they want to do with them basically. This is a really great tool for doing that. I've used my H4n for that for years now. It basically means you don't have to use a computer to get your recording, especially if you're using DJ software like Serato or Traktor. You don't really want to be using your computer to do the recording as well. So to avoid any problems, the really easy solution is to plug the output of your mixer straight into a unit like this and record your set. Very easy, nothing can go wrong. Absolutely perfect application for this unit. So that's it for the Zoom H6. We hope you've enjoyed the video. If you want any more information on this, please come in and see us at our Osborne Park or Cannington stores, or check us out online at cosmic.com.au.